Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Writer's Hive, where we meet weekly to demystify the writing and publication process. I am here today with Amber and Katlyn for one of our famed honey seats. We are going to be talking to Katlyn about her book, The Successful Hybrid Author. Katlyn is also the author of Take Back Your Book, an author's guide to rights reversion. And I am very excited about her second nonfiction book, which I had the pleasure of reading early. The book is out now and aimed towards helping authors navigate a successful hybrid career. Katlyn, would you like to tell us a little bit about the book, a quick synopsis?
Absolutely. So the Successful Hybrid Author is all about advice for authors in both traditional and independent spaces wanting to get some of the benefits of the other path. So we go into the pros and cons of both paths and how you can make your books and your author career hybrid, which means you would dip your toes in both paths to get hopefully the benefits of both.
And inside of your book, you have some really great conversations with other authors who have gone hybrid in different directions and in different ways. Can you tell me a little bit about talking to them to gather their experiences to also compare to your own?
My experience with publishing is that I was with a digital first imprint of a traditional publishing house. So I have one set of experiences going towards self publishing. And with Take Back Your Book as well, I like incorporating other people's processes and understanding where they're coming from just so that I can give as robust of a conversation as possible. So I interviewed two traditional authors who are also self-publishing, and I interviewed two self-published authors who are also dipping into traditional. So I have Rachel Herron and Gail Carriger who have talked about their traditional publishing going into indie, along with Sasha Black and Helen Schroyer, who have sold their subrights to traditional publishing houses. So it was a lot of fun chatting with them. If you buy the book, in the resources section, I have all four of those interviews, full conversations with all these authors. So those are a little bonus opportunity for you to sort of see maybe where you fit in and if you'd like to become a hybrid author.
So, for sake of somebody maybe watching this that's never heard the term, can you explain what a hybrid author is?
Absolutely. So, a hybrid author is someone who is both traditional and independently published. So, at some point, you would have had to have a contract with a traditional publisher and are also self publishing. So, it is just taking a hybrid path to both of them.
So, my first actual question, that was just kind of to help for clarity's sake. But my first question is, being a hybrid author and then interviewing people who have different experiences, was there anything that you learned while writing the book that really surprised you, that you didn't or did have the experience and someone else did or didn't?
I have spoken to a lot of successful indie authors in the research for that book. I'm just surprised by like the resourcefulness of a lot of authors. My career has been a little bit different in that I do like ghostwriting and stuff like that. But to think about our books as products, which we should, but also exercising the subrights of all of these books. So Helen Schroyer had sold her audiobooks for her series to Audible and continues to do so. Was really surprised about the different paths that a lot of authors have taken in general, and it's really opened my mind to different paths that I can do for my books in the future.
What do you find being if you can narrow it down to a number one, but the number one reason why traditionally published authors move towards self publishing?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to one because everyone's experience is different, but in my experience, we as authors have a lot of ideas for books, and sometimes the traditional publishing path is not open to all of the books that we have in our mind. So I think someone wanting more creative control with a specific book or series may be a reason that you would go from trad to indie.
I know as a part of your pre-order, you had a workbook that went along with your successful hybrid author. Do you plan on putting that out separately down the road for people that get the book after the fact?
I do have a plan to do a workbook. I just don't have the full concept in mind. It was really fun to sort of go through and create the workbook for the pre-order. I don't know when I would put the other one out. And I think, like, to be honest, I'd probably do one that combines both rights reversion and being a hybrid author, because I think they're linked. So definitely thinking about it, just don't know how to put it together quite yet.
As somebody who hasn't written nonfiction, I've loved reading yours, and it reads very conversationally. Between the last book and this one, you've interviewed very different authors, or a variety of authors. From a personal standpoint, I would love to know, how do you go about contacting these authors to be a part of your study and your book? And have you found that, for the most part, these authors are receptive to that? I think a lot of our viewers might be interested in how to approach their peers.
Yeah, absolutely. Full transparency, two of them are my good friends. So they didn't really have a problem, being a part of the book. And when it came to pitching, I would have to say it's like pitching anything. If you have a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, normal pitching standards. So you want to obviously let this person know, what commonality you have. So at that point, I was looking to these authors to say, hey, I'm interested in writing a book about hybrid authors. I know you're a hybrid author. Would this be something you'd be interested in? And I sort of explained what it would be. So we would do the video interviews as bonuses, and I gave them the opportunity to watch them ahead of time and see if there's anything that they didn't want in the video. I was very open to letting them, make sure the correct things were in the book that they wanted. So I would say try to find a commonality, try to find a way that you can benefit them instead of yourself, and just be open to a conversation. I mean, I'm sure there were some opportunities that people sort of turned me down, but that was more in my survey. So I did a survey and I also did the interviews. So with the survey, I think Take Back Your Book was surprising to me a little bit more, where people did not want to be named, which I totally respected as well. So I just be open and have a conversation and try to not make it all about you, because that's normal pitching rules. Try to make it about the bigger community and more about the person that you're pitching.
Writing this one as compared to your first nonfiction, what was some of the differences or struggles or wins that you found writing it? Like, what was easier, what was harder? I'm super interested. I also have a nonfiction in mind to write one day, so I'm really interested in the process of learning from the first one, how to write a nonfiction to writing the second one.
I have to say, overall, this book was a little more difficult to write for me. The first book spilled out of me so quickly, because it was something I was going through at the time, and it was very much my experience. I always think of that one as self-help / memoir. I was also going through the process of doing these things, but offering practical advice. With this one specifically, it was very much, I had to look at my process, but also there are so many ways that you can go hybrid. I wanted to be as robust as possible. So I did a lot of research. Like I said, I did the survey and I did the interviews, but I found myself stuck sometimes because I wanted to make sure it was, conversational, as Julie mentioned, and while offering the practical advice. So Julie was a great CP. So I ended up slashing a ton of words from this book to make it as succinct and practical as possible, which I so appreciate. Yeah, I just found it difficult to dive in at some point. And I don't know if that was more of imposter syndrome. Maybe this book won't come out as well as the other one. It's also just different because it's not exactly step by step. It's more of a mind shift plus practical advice, and it's really not prescriptive because there are a million different avenues that you can do.
We already talked about the process of going from traditional publishing to self-publishing. Can you let us know what the benefits of going from self-publishing, where you have all of the control, to traditional publishing would be, and what that process might look like for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the more famous examples of going from self-published to traditional is E.L. James, Andy Weir, and also in my book, Sasha Black and Helen Schroyer. So looking at the different ways that you can go trad, it could be you're a wild success in the indie sphere and agents and editors approach you, which is amazing. Doesn't happen to everyone. Another way is that you could have an agent specifically for your subrights. So with Sasha's case specifically, she had a Korean publisher reach out to her, and she wasn't even thinking about doing Korean translations. She doesn't speak the language, and it wasn't even on her radar. So this is just another avenue for her to have diversified income through a traditional publishing house where they really take care of everything. So taking advantage of the traditional like distribution and marketing is really helpful for indies to kind of get their books out there. But as an indie too, you could choose to write your indie books in a specific genre, and then you can get an agent and write another genre or a different spin on the genre with traditional publishing houses, just to get a little bit of different communications and distribution and marketing. So it could go many different ways, especially with self-published traditional.
So back to the actual publishing and writing of the nonfiction. So what made you decide to indie publish the nonfiction instead of reaching out and trying to get it traditionally published?
Since my books were reverted back in 2020, I've really caught with the self-publishing bug. I don't think traditional would want a book about rights reversion because that's when take away a little bit from them. My books tend to be really short. They're just my experiences. And I also wanted to get them out like as soon as possible. And in the trad market, I mean, it could take almost 2 years to get your books out. Plus, I don't have an agent. So I really love the control. And I just really like doing them myself and sort of getting out there. And the sort of bucket, the series name for these books is Author First, which I sort of discovered as I was writing this book, because just looking at all of the things happening in publishing, authors are usually not first. We're usually like last, where it would go like publisher and then like agents and stuff like that, and then the author. So I'm really interested in getting my books out to authors and sort of giving that control back to them. So I would never say never to publishing a nonfiction book with trad, but I just don't have a specific topic that I want to throw their way yet.
I know there used to be I think, misconception that self-publishing would make you less appealing to traditional publishing. In your conversations with the writers who have gone from self to trad, was the fact that they had self-published prior at any point a detriment to going trad?
I think within the last 10 years or so, self-publishing has really like been a good contender against, not against, but like, and the parallel path for traditional publishing. I think a lot of people are being more open to it, and a lot of the result of editors leaving traditional houses and becoming freelance, a lot of cover designers being more affordable for indies, that we're really able to stand like toe to toe with trad books. Some people may not even like notice or even know that some books are trad published versus not. So I think there is some stigma for some people, but a lot of people who are self-published and hybrid, and some authors who are trad coming toward this way, understand that it's another opportunity for them instead of a detriment. So as long as you take care in editing and your cover design and everything and make the book look the best it can, I don't think there's a problem with not being traditional anymore. I think it's really that stigma is not around as much as it used to be.
I would definitely agree. So my last question to wrap up the interview would be, are there any other nonfiction titles that you have rolling around in your brain? Should we expect that this series continues? Are we looking for another one in 2024? What's next for you and your nonfiction?
So I do have 2 ideas for nonfiction in my head, but they're not fully formed yet. And these ones will definitely be a bit longer, but I don't have anything yet. I'm just still thinking about it in terms of how I want to structure it and how they would be a part of either this series or another one entirely.
The best place for you to buy Katlyn's book is from her website. We will have links to both of Katlyn's nonfiction books, as well as all of our social media links listed down below. We're going to wrap up the honey seat here. If you have any specific questions about hybrid publishing, and you've already read Kate's book and she hasn't answered them yet, leave it in the comments down below, and I'm sure that Kate will be happy to comment back. That's going to be it for this episode, and we will see you in next week's discussion. Bye, everybody.